So, Clem, one of the things that comes up often with me, and I'm sure it does with you, is actually the definition of coaching, or what actually coaching is. And one of the things I personally feel, it'd be interesting to get your take on it, is that when people come to me to ask for coaching, sometimes, well, they often have quite varying understanding of what we believe coaching to be as well. So how would you define coaching?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a number of definitions, but actually, Philip, let me just agree as well that I would say that's one of the topics that I frequently get asked and always like to kind of cover in any sort of initial discovery chats that we're having is to kind of explore, well, actually, what is the person potentially looking for? What do they understand by coaching? What do they understand by other things like mentoring and that sort of thing? So we can just get a sense as to kind of that we're talking the same language kind of thing. And I think that's because obviously things like coaching can be a really ambiguous term. There's loads of different sort of understandings of it, and you've also obviously got loads of people calling themselves coach, some of who may not have had kind of coach training. Others, they're bringing very much a mentoring or a specialist kind of advisor kind of role. So to actually answer your question, then, what do I define as coaching? So for me, coaching is kind of partnering with clients in a sort of thought-provoking and interesting, creative kind of conversation in order to help them unlock the kind of potential within themselves. And that's kind of loosely based on the International Coaching Federation definition of coaching. So as a coach, I wouldn't necessarily expect to bring any specialist knowledge related to that person's profession, but instead by asking kind of hopefully useful and possibly even powerful kind of questions, I can help them to kind of think in a slightly different way, maybe from a different perspective, from a different angle that they'd not done before. And I really like the term kind of thinking partner. So working alongside somebody as a thinking partner, giving them chance to speak out loud, share their thoughts with somebody who's going to listen in a kind of completely impartial and non-judgmental way, but also who's bringing kind of professional techniques to help them really unpack maybe what they're thinking and give them chance to get out of their head.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm gonna throw something in there as well.
Go for it.
And this is one of the challenges I've had from people in the past. Go, that sounds great, Clem. Is it a bit woo-woo? And I've had that. I've had that thrown at me a little bit in the past. One of the bits that I think we miss sometimes is we miss in articulating sometimes is the actual accountability piece as well. So I wholeheartedly agree with everything you say. But one of the things I do like to mention to people is that it isn't necessarily going to be an easy conversation. And actually there is going to be a blend of challenge and support as well. And actually, if there was going to be no challenge, it would just be a very expensive conversation. And you can pay me for that if you want to. But it's actually holding people accountable to goals to make sure that they actually, they are accountable for achieving them.
Yes.
But we are holding people accountable to try and achieve things.
Yeah. I would, I agree with pretty much most of what you've said there. I guess the only thing I would say is sometimes people have the answers kind of within themselves, and I appreciate that sounds a bit woo-woo straight away, but and actually just even without the kind of action plan or the accountability, having the opportunity to talk it through with somebody, have somebody prompt them with maybe some different angles or thoughts, and indeed definitely challenge, as you say. Coaching is not always, if not, is it ever a kind of completely comfortable thing? It should be taking you to new places, which kind of helps you move forward. So, but I think I do agree with you in terms of it needs to provide that to stop it just being a kind of conversation. And And then in terms of how much structure, what kind of techniques, what kind of ways you might agree, accountability or challenge and that kind of thing. Again, that's where I would typically aim to work with each client as we set off together to figure out, well, what's going to work? What exactly does structure look like to them? What exactly does accountability look like? What do they actually want to achieve through coaching? And it might just be a kind of good open-ended conversation, or they might have something a lot more kind of practical, movement focused in mind.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. It is a really good point, and it is an interesting one that I think different people work at different speeds, different paces. Some people who are very goal driven, action orientated will want to see progress quite quickly and often get progress quickly. And some people actually, the real value is unpicking things. And can take a lot longer, but it doesn't mean that it's less valuable. It's that is the value in itself. So,
yeah, definitely.
Interesting.
It's a good point as well, actually. You've just made me think there about, what works for somebody as opposed to somebody else. That's where it takes time, as you establish a coaching relationship, to kind of figure that kind of thing out. So it is a really kind of adaptive approach. But often, one session is maybe just going to start to set the scene, and it actually takes a little bit longer to figure out, well, what's going to be most effective. And as coaches, I think our aim should be to try and meet the client where they are, to kind of actually adapt our style to kind of fit with what's going to work best for that person, rather than kind of coming and saying, right, it needs to work like this.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting thing. So, but you've mentioned some of it, but benefits of coaching. How does it work? What does it bring to people? For people who especially if you've never had it previously.
Yeah. I mean, yes, benefits of coaching is a great topic, but one that is, I suppose, quite expansive in terms of the answer, shall we say. So obviously people usually they come to coaching with something in mind in terms of a goal they want to achieve, some movement they want to have happen, to shift themselves from where they are now to someplace new, or maybe they just feel a bit stuck and a bit uncertain. And so I guess in a sort of top level sense, the benefits of coaching are in helping somebody maybe gain greater clarity about what that goal is, how they're going to go about getting there, perhaps, breaking free of that feeling of being just stuck and unsure as to how to progress. And all of that, again, I know does sound, it's quite qualitative. It's not kind of, you can't put metrics on it maybe, but maybe if we think about business terms, though, if you think about how much benefit that could bring to a business, having somebody who's really kind of switched on and driven and motivated with what they want to achieve, as opposed to someone who's, probably internalizing a lot of self-doubt and question and feeling stuck, and then maybe not bringing as much as they could, then it actually starts to really translate into, actual business benefits as well, in a kind of more quantifiable way.
Yeah,
I don't know. Did that land with you at all?
it did. Yeah, everything made sense to you, and I think as I was listening to you as well, I was a few things were pinging in my mind. When I'd had coaching myself, and then also some of the journeys I've helped other people on, and I think if you go. You can split it into a number of ways, can't you? So I think there's definitely value for the individual themselves,
and
then there's value for the business as well. And inherently, the value for the business usually comes from the individual feeling more empowered, actually progressing further in their role, and feeling more confident, and generally there's a bit of the positive vibe piece, but also actually being more productive and actually helping the organisation to be a better place. On an individual level, I think it can be quite tactical. So I don't like you're a bit of a master at the feedback sessions and, you know, helping people with tough conversations, right? And that's one that comes up in so many sessions. You know, I know you'll say the same. You know, I would say in probably 50% or more of the people that I coach, there's been some conversation around tough conversations, whether it is at a line manager level, at trying to get a pay rise, it could be trying to sell their business for the first time or negotiating a big contract, whatever it is, there's a tough conversation kind of piece in there. There's often confidence pieces in there as well. And then there's often something about picking your way forward. So not quite knowing where you want to go, or knowing where you want to go, but not knowing how to achieve it. You know, and I think coaching, you know, for me in all of those kind of areas was transformational. So, and I'm kind of talking through it rather than go, these are the benefits, list. But you know, I think there's a wealth in there, and I think actually it's much bigger than people often realize. I think for myself, it was truly transformational that took me from being a individual contributor through to a manager, director, kind of MD, and then ultimately going on to owning a business. And I don't think I would have done any of that without coaching.
Yeah. And actually, likewise, I'm just reflecting. You've made me think there. I probably wouldn't have actually, you know, become independent, started my own business without going through some coaching over recent years as well. You know, kind of giving me that sense as that, yes, I could achieve it. And also just that kind of possibility that there are other ways of approaching work and life as opposed to being a salaried employee, which is what I'd always previously done prior to doing my own business. Coaching was kind of instrumental in just getting me to actually recognize that and then actually think about how to go about doing it.